that the Democrat Party doesn't really care about everyday Americans. These guys are in a major crisis. Look at what's happening. Consider their big meeting, which actually has been put on pause because of the tragedy that unfolded. And my heart goes out to everyone there in Minneapolis. Just a horrible situation. But that was going down, right? And I was watching some of the sound that was coming in thinking, you wonder why they have trouble. I mean, you look at the crime rate in DC, you look at the crime rate in LA, you look at the crime rate in Chicago, and it's bad. Like, it's really, really bad. You look at DC, and I've showed you these numbers. It's worse than parts of Africa and much of Latin America. I mean, you can go to Bogota and be safer in Colombia than you'd ever be in the likes of Washington, D.C. And yet they have these idiots in the Democrat Party that get up there in their big shindig and say things like, I'm about to show you, okay? This is unbelievable. This woman, speaking for the Democrats, doesn't seem to think that everyday Americans care about being safe. It blows my mind. Take a peek.
Issues voters care about. Where does Trump go? Migrant crime, carjackings, the really lurid, awful stuff that is a crazy, crazy visual. Don't take the bait, because most Americans are more worried about how are we going to address mental health issues, the visible homelessness that we see on streets, and how do we deal with mental health and other issues that drive the sort of random incidents that scare all of us. That's what you should be talking about. That's where you should be focused. Don't take the bait in talking about migrant crime or carjackings or the things that actually don't matter to that many Americans. And then go to the...
So she thinks that carjackings don't matter to everyday Americans. I mean, what planet do these people live on? And then they wonder why they're not winning. I think it's pretty darn simple, guys. All right, you actually have to care about basics. I mean, if there's one thing that the government should be doing, it's making sure that everybody's safe, right? That's kind of like one of the, even the most libertarian of libertarians would tell you, the government's there to try and keep you safe. All right, we don't need them for anything else, but they got to keep us safe. And if they can't keep us safe, then what the heck are they doing in government? So this is what they fundamentally don't seem to understand, because it's racist to say, okay, well, now we're gonna arrest people if they're committing a crime, because if you're, I guess, of a certain color or of a certain neighborhood or whatever, this is bonkers and it's crazy. And you look at the south side of Chicago, where they're now begging for Donald Trump's help, because they know, as well as I know, and it has nothing to do with race and everything to do with keeping people safe so that everybody can have an opportunity to prosper. I mean, if you're unfortunate enough to be born in Watts or out in California or south side of Chicago or some parts of Baltimore, you don't have the same opportunity set because of the mere problem, and I say mere, but massive problem, of your actual physical safety being under threat at all times. I mean, for goodness sakes, if the government can't keep you safe, then what are they doing? And they get these morons like Timmy Waltz still out there saying idiotic stuff like this.
To tell you, the privilege of my lifetime was stand beside someone we know was the most qualified and would have been a fantastic president in a President Harris. And look, we wouldn't wake up every day to on TV and a bunch of nonsense. We would wake up to an adult with compassion and dignity and vision and leadership doing the work, not a man-child crying about whatever's wrong with him. May his fat ankles find something today. Petty as hell.
It's such a weird thing to say. Like, he's just a really weird guy. We're talking about how little some of these people have. I mean, would you really want a vice president of the United States who's been making nearly $200,000 a year for however many years that he's been in Congress, and he's never saved a dime of it, to the point where he's never invested? He doesn't care about actually having a stake in anything, because he doesn't have a stake in anything. I don't buy that. I don't like this guy. I really fundamentally just don't like. You know what? That's interesting, right? I don't like him. I didn't like Hillary Clinton. I didn't like Kamala Harris. And I think likability matters. And they forget this all the time. They don't have anybody in their cast of characters. And by the way, the Republican Party didn't either. That's why I said all along, if Donald Trump wanted that nomination for the Republican Party, he was going to get it, because there was no one that could compete with the likability factor Okay, so that je ne sais quoi that you can't quite name, but he's got it. Star quality, star factor, whatever. Hopefully you're here and we're getting towards 1 million on the Trish Regan show because you find a little bit of that in me, right? It's what you want from your television personality. And by the way, yeah, I guess from your politicians. I would say this about him. Not only does he have that, in real life, he genuinely likes people. He actually really likes people and enjoys talking to people. I don't think Hillary Clinton does. I don't think Kamala Harris does. I don't really think Obama does. I'm going to be generous. I think Bill Clinton did. You know, especially if he looked like Monica Lewinsky. Not my type. You know, even if I was a guy, definitely not my type. But hey, you know, for every Jack, there's a Jill. And for Clinton, there were a lot of Jills, apparently. We know that. I don't have to say allegedly. Anyway, the point being, they don't know how at this point because they've gotten so entrenched in their own wokeness. And as a result, you know what CNN is saying. But for fun, let's watch it again.
Look, the Democratic brand right now has about the appeal with the American voter as the Cracker Barrel rebrand has with the American consumers. Bad, bad, bad. What are you doing? Oh, my goodness gracious. What are we talking about here in terms of big party registration changes in the key swing states? Let's look at the key 4 swing states that, in fact, do keep track of registration by party. Look, the Republican Party is in their best position at this point in the cycle since at least 2005 in all 4 of these key battleground states. We go out to the Southwest, Arizona. How about Nevada? Republicans haven't done this well since 2005. Oh, my goodness gracious, at this point in the cycle. North Carolina, I couldn't find a point at which Republicans were doing better at this point in the cycle. It's at least this century. It probably goes way back in the last century. And Pennsylvania, very similar. Republicans doing better at this point than at any point this century, at least as far as I could find. Now, what types of gains are we talking about here for the Republican Party? Well, let's compare it to this point during the first Trump administration all the way back in 2017. Look at this. The Republican Party gains in party registration compared to this point back in 2017 during the Trump first administration. In Arizona, you got a Republican gain of 3 points. Okay, how about Nevada? Up the hill we go, even though we're sticking in the Southwest. A gain of 6 points. How about, again, we come to the East Coast, North Carolina, a gain of 8 points for the Republicans. And in the Keystone State, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, again, we're talking about a gain of 8 points. My goodness gracious, for Republicans, they are converting old former Democrats to their side of the ledger, as well as picking up new voters, registering new voters, and it absolutely paid off for them back in the 2024 election.
You know, I actually think he's the best guy that CNN has now. And it's not just because I like the news that he's delivering, which is obviously very good for the Republican Party, but it's because I actually think he's got that pizzazz that we were just talking about. Like, he's excited about what he does. And he's like, oh my gosh, like, we haven't seen this in a century. Oh my goodness gracious. He's got some star quality. And they don't have a lot of that on CNN. I will take him any day of the week over Anderson Cooper or Jake Tapper with the terrible voice. Talks like a frog, right? Like, that guy's got spunk and personality. You know what? He's delivering truth. Like, I don't know what to think. Like, was he even able to show his face the next day in the newsroom? Well, I know he was, because actually 2 weeks ago, he started going on about how the Democrat brand was total garbage. It was in the basement. It was garbage. And now he doubles down with this. Anyway, they don't like reality. And reality right now is not good. When you look at some of these crime numbers, especially in these blue cities, and who points this out? Clearly the president, and also Stephen Miller. So they try and attack Stephen Miller as much as they can, because Stephen is kind of like all this, right? Like, he's in overdrive all the time. Donald Trump knows how to pull back. He knows how to go full force. He knows how to then pull back again. He knows how to show multiple sides of his personality. He shows his empathy. He shows his humor. And he shows his strength. Stephen, I love. He's brilliant. But he's like this, right? He's like this. And he's passionate and he's determined. And he said something on Fox the other night that got everybody all worked up, because he was talking about migration and criminals and and everybody's and so they started playing the soundbite on CNN, and And now people are saying, gosh, Stephen Miller may have a libel suit against CNN because this woman who used to work at MSNBC, I don't know her name, forgive me, but she's, kind of a day player, makes her rounds. Now she's on CNN occasionally. And she said some pretty atrocious stuff about him. I mean, I think he might be able to say, this is kind of a libelous thing for you to say. It's a very bad place that they go, but they always call someone racist if they don't agree with them. And I'm telling you, the country's over it. Chicago's over it. But listen to this lady.
Really quickly, Abby, because anytime that we play something from Stephen Miller, it would be journalistic integrity to point out that he is a white supremacist and he is the brainchild behind this policy. That's not my opinion. That's actual facts. And for him to purport lies from the Oval Office.
So we think that that's a bit of a problem, right, for CNN, and not just CNN. And by the way, by all means, Stephen, have at it, because I think that that's effectively libel. I mean, you say things like that about people. I'm tired of that. I am so sick and tired of that's the place that they go to, because where do you go? You're on your heels. They've just called you a despicable thing and you say, no, I'm not. I mean, how do you recover from that? That is a horrible thing to say. And what does she say that on? What is that based on, guys? I mean, that is just flat out disgusting talk, and that's got to stop. Like, we have to have a level of civility again. That's what's been lost. They just go punch at him, whether it's Donald Trump or whether it's Stephen Miller or anybody, right? That's MAGA, because if you're MAGA, you're this, that, and the other. I don't even want to say the words, but you know what they say. And that has to stop. And believe me, it's about to, because I think that more and more people, just look at the new numbers out of the New York Times. They ran an analysis. A majority of the new Americans that are coming in as first-time voters, guess who they're registering to vote as? Republicans. Okay, so everything's going red. Everything's going MAGA. Men overwhelmingly have moved. I mean, it's really not a surprise, right? You tell white men they are the worst thing ever. Men in general are the worst thing ever, because, by the way, a lot of black men as well are like, I don't want anything to do with the Democrat Party now, given where it's heading and what it's saying and what it now represents. And so this is massive, and you're seeing it play out real time right now in Chicago, because the people in Chicago are like, please, Donald Trump, please come help, please bring in the National Guard, do whatever you can. And then you get this Brandon Johnson, who, by the way, can't balance a budget, wants more money for everything, believes that he needs to hire only black people because black people are better, blah, blah. I mean, these are his words, not mine. This is what he has actually come out and said. We've got it on tape. I played some of it for you yesterday. For goodness sakes, this guy is a problem, a huge problem. And yet there he is, out in Chicago saying, no way, no how are we going to have Donald Trump coming in here with the National Guard? Well, Donald Trump says, watch out, we may just be there. Chicago's next on his list. This issue came up in California, you'll recall. Gavin Newsom was like, get out of town. And guess what? The Ninth Circuit Court made the decision that indeed the National Guard could come in during those riots in California. Listen to Donald Trump musing about Chicago being next.
Where on earth? So, I really am honored that the National Guard has done such an incredible job working with the police. And we haven't had to bring in the regular military, which we're willing to do. We have to. And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. And it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one. But they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York, and we're going to help with...
Yeah. You know what, they are saying that. And the reason they're saying that, guys, the reason they're saying that is because it's gotten that bad. and they need the help, and they can't rely on their leaders like Brandon Johnson to actually do anything, because he's not doing anything. He's squandering their money. I've shown you in my shorts clips some of it's amazing. People are so frustrated with this guy. They've had it with him, and now, yes, they are begging for help. Here's a clip, courtesy of News Nation.
Our children can't walk around the community without fear of being hurt or kidnapped or having a drive-by. So it's what these numbers that they're expressing, we don't feel it in our quality of life.
Yeah, they're trying to say, you know what? It's not a big deal. You must be imagining this, right? That they tried to say the same thing, by the way, in D.C., that the numbers in terms of homicides and stuff, that they were going down. And people are like, yeah, it doesn't really feel that way because it doesn't feel so safe here in the city of D.C. And you had members of the media even coming out and saying that. And now Chicago, similar thing. But one of the concerns is that they've been massaging these numbers. And so they've been trying to make them look better. Anecdotally, I've certainly heard that in New York from people that work in the police force. And then you have the police union chief in DC saying this, that they were discouraged from reporting certain things because they wanted these numbers to look better. So the people of Chicago have kind of had it. And this one guy, I want to show you a clip from a recent meeting where somebody stood up and they said to Brandon Johnson, hey buddy, like, look at me. You won't even look at me, Mayor Johnson. What the heck is going on? We're not in a good position here. You got to do something about it. And now apparently Donald Trump is willing. The very woke mayor in Chicago that wants to stand in the way of any DHS efforts got a little bit of a scolding by one of his constituents because he wouldn't even look at the guy.
I am speaking right now, so I would love your undivided attention, please. I'll wait.
And wait.
So this just proves to you the lack of leadership that you show in this city. You can't even give me straight eye contact. Now, I'm going to let you know now, the people of Chicago, we're done with you. It is insane how we have been voting Democrat for over 60 plus years, and we've never seen a change from people like you, Lori Lightfoot, Robbie Emanuel. It is insane. Chicago was 37% red. In 2020, it was only 15%. So we're waking up. So you can pretend that this isn't happening, but I know for a fact that you will not have that seat the next election.
Boom! Did you hear that? Mayor Johnson, they don't like you. You're going to be out. Yeah, you will. They really don't like you in Chicago right now. And it's fascinating because people would have never thought that you would have gotten this vote or that you could get this vote. And the black vote had gotten locked up by the left. And the reality is, I think so many hardworking black Americans are saying, hang on. You know, they promised us this, that, and the other, and none of it's happened. And you can go back to sort of Johnson, right? Lyndon Johnson, when they put in a lot of programs that actually hindered black Americans instead of helping them. And we've seen a deterioration, for example, in the family unit as a result of that. And if you had the left in charge, that would have continued. Think about Black Lives Matter. They used to have on their website as one of their tenets there, one of their big beliefs was the destruction of the nuclear family. They wanted to get rid of the nuclear family. Like, how does that help you guys? I don't know. Like, it really doesn't. Like, being a nuclear family is actually incredibly important to putting people in a better position because, you know what, then you got two instead of one, all right? And when you have kids, believe me, you need all the help you can get, okay? So having two parents in a household is a big deal, and yet they wanted to destroy this. And I think Chicago has gotten to the point where they realize that this guy I'm about to show you is a total freaking fraud.
As the mayor of this city, I can tell you that Chicagoans are not calling for a military occupation. They are calling for the same thing that we've been calling for some time, and that's investment. What safe cities across America all have in common, they invest in people, and that's what we're doing in Chicago. We need the federal resources to make sure that we're building more affordable housing, expanding mental and behavioral health care, education, all of these things that could reduce crime and provide real community safety. Instead of spending hundreds of millions of dollars for a publicity stunt to invoke chaos and terror, the federal government should spend that money on proven solutions to crime and violence reduction. We cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that And we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence down. We cannot return to the same failed strategies that got us here in the first place. Under the previous presidential administration, we requested more federal resources to address gun violence in our city. We continue to make that same call. We have made significant progress on our own, but there is so much more that we can do if we had real support from the federal government.
If we had real support from the federal government. In other words, he just wants a handout, but he doesn't want to actually be responsible for anything, right? He doesn't actually want to ensure that crime rates are going down. He doesn't want more police. I mean, you're talking about a group of people that was all about defund the police. I will never get that. I just never, again, what do you think government's there for? As for the immigration stuff, hello, people. I mean, this is kind of a basic thing that the federal government absolutely has the right to control. They don't have a lot of ability to do a whole lot of things, and I'm a small government kind of live free or die gal, but I mean, for goodness sakes, whether it's the Commerce Clause or the Supremacy Clause or there's a naturalization clause. I mean, they got a lot of clauses in the Constitution. And yes, they have control over whether somebody can be in this country or not. And when you get to such a state of lawlessness, like you've seen in the likes of LA, in San Francisco, just walk those streets, my gosh, or Chicago or DC, that might be an opportunity then for the national government to come in and say, okay, we need to do better. How can we do better? How can we help these places? Why won't they take the help? Look at what's going on in Boston with Michelle Wu. Again, the Democrat Party is putting themselves in this position because they're out there fighting for people who are here illegally, who may have committed crimes. La Monica literally out there fighting for them instead of fighting for the actual people that were born and raised here in America.